Hello. Prior to 1971, students with disabilities were not guaranteed equal treatment in public education. Many times, these students were ignored or denied accommodations that were necessary to their success. In a series of lawsuits aimed at protecting the constitutional rights of these individuals, new laws and standards were defined which afforded students with disabilities the resources and opportunities they deserve. 1971 Pennsylvania lawsuit, referred to as Park, was based on the Equal Protection Clause of the 14th Amendment and argued that all students with disabilities are able to benefit from education and training. Education could not be defined strictly in terms of academics, and as long as the state was providing free education to the public, students with disabilities could not be excluded. And the earlier these interventions were provided, the greater impact students with disabilities could experience. Soon after, in 1972, a class action suit representing 7 students with various disabilities was brought before courts, and this suit was known as Mills v. Board of Education of District of Columbia. The courts found that these students could be defined as a class and represent all students with disabilities, and as the 14th Amendment guarantees, are protected and afforded equal rights, much like students could not be segregated based on race. This ruling sought to ensure procedural protections like parental notification and consent requirements to give parents of students a meaningful role in their child's education. In 1973, Section 504 brought further protection by stating that discrimination based on disability was prohibited in programs that receive federal financial assistance, like public schools. This ensured that people with disabilities were a protected class, which could not face exclusion or discrimination on the basis of their disability, and were guaranteed equal access to public education and resources. As advancements in professional development for teachers and educational theories moved ahead, students with disabilities were far more frequently integrated into or retained in general education classrooms. This is known as the Least Restrictive Environment, or LRE, and the case of Oberti v. Board of Education of the Borough of Clementon School District in 1993 introduced new testing criteria for determining placement of students. Some of the factors used to determine whether a student was in the least restrictive environment, as decided by this case, was whether the school had made reasonable efforts to include the student in the general education classroom, comparison of the educational benefits being offered to the general education class, along with the services provided to special education, and the impact of disabled students' inclusion on non-disabled peers. This was an important culmination of multiple suits being brought to courts around the country which sought to empower advocates of students with disabilities to bring more equality and consistency to their treatment. The next important reauthorization is commonly referred to as IDEA, although the official name is Individuals with Disabilities Education Improvement Act of 2004. It was meant to provide accountability and realign the goals of special education with No Child Left Behind of 2001, focusing on professional development for special education teachers and adding provisions for evidence-based practices. A more recent development along these lines came in 2017 when the parents of an autistic student sought funding for a private school, which specialized in teaching students on the autism spectrum. This was decided in the case of Joseph F. v. Douglas County School District, RE1, which evaluated the adequacy of the student's education and found that, in order to meet the obligations of IDEA, the school could not simply provide the minimal amount of effort in accommodating a student with a severe disability. Despite the good intentions and often positive outcomes of providing students with disabilities in education in the least restrictive environment, this is not always the optimal solution, and the needs of individual students should be taken into account in every situation. There are now many resources for families and caregivers of students with disabilities which can assist with advocating for their needs, provide resources and information, and constitute a community of knowledgeable and empathic people who understand the challenges and triumphs of special education. One of these resources is the website for the PTA, which offers an assortment of tools for families of special education students and has state-specific information on their website at www.pta.org. Another resource is teachervision.com, which provides educators with strategies and tools for developing and implementing curriculum for special education students. In Arizona, Excel, a non-profit which serves individuals aged 5 to 22 with special needs, has been around since 1980 and provides adult services, day schools, and is accessible through their website at www.excel.org. Hopefully this information and provided resources give better understanding of and support to our families of exceptional students. Thank you.